Right, so on to the third question on paper 1, Biology Foundation Tier 2024. Okay, right, so this question is about, as you can see, blood. So the topic that if you haven't revised, please go and revise this topic. I'm going to quickly just write down the names of all of these blood cells because this one is pretty important and is mostly repeated in all your exam questions. Right, so the big one, the big cells, as you can see, those are your WBCs or white blood cells. Okay, and the smaller cells that you can see, not the tiniest ones, those are the fragments. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the smaller than the WBCs are your red blood cells. Okay, so what are these fragments then? So the ones that are suspended here, these fragments are nothing but the platelets. Okay, yep. So the background, the fluid that's there, the yellow color fluid, yes, you guessed it right, it's the plasma. So if you can understand it, just these 4 things, it's very easy to score the 4 marks, but most likely they will just ask you 1 or 2. Like here, they have asked you which letter shows a white blood cell. Of course, it is C. So you got the 1 mark. Okay, moving on to the next question. Which part of the blood causes the blood to clot? Now, you should know the basics. So which one out of this? The RBC is to transport the oxygen. WBC is to protect you from immune system, basically. Plasma transports different substances. The platelets is the one which helps in clotting the blood. So your correct answer is platelets. And you got the next mark. Okay, moving on to question 3.3. Name 2 substances transported in the blood. Now, as per the mark scheme, there are plenty of substances, as you can see. All of these are transported in the plasma. Okay, so they're saying blood just to make it easier for you to understand. Basically, if they ask you plasma, please don't say RBC or WBC. This is what they transport. They are basically the cells which the plasma has it or the blood has it. Do not say RBC, WBCs for these things. Okay, they're asking you the substances. So it could be any of these. Sometimes students only might remember, oh, I know blood transports oxygen. I know it transports carbon dioxide. So if you only remember these 2, then they might say that as an exception and say, can you name 2 substances transported in the blood other than oxygen and carbon dioxide? Then you should know the rest of it. The most important for higher tier students and for foundation is to remember that they can also transport hormones. Okay, so that's a fancy thing to remember. Right, other than that, as you can see, most of these are nutrients. So if you say nutrients, you will get the mark, but if it's better to name a nutrient. So you can say glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, and all of that. And also the waste products such as urea, carbon dioxide, and you can also say as simple as water. So it's up to you which one you want to pick. I'm going to say the fancy one, hormones, and I'm going to name a nutrient such as amino acids. Okay, so I get the 2 ticks, 2 marks. On to my next question. Right. Healthy people can volunteer to donate blood. Have you ever donated? I have once. Right, so the donated blood is then given to patients who need the blood, of course. When a volunteer donates blood, the volunteer's health is checked. So that's a benefit. That's what they are trying to tell you. So all the information they give you in the exam, they do come in handy actually. So if your health is checked, basically, if there are any issues, you will get to know as well, isn't it? Right, a needle is used to remove the blood from the vein in the arm. Now, there could be a chance they can ask you, yeah, there we go. The volunteer rests for 15 minutes after the donation. So why do you think they need to rest? So there could be possible questions from that. Like, as you can tell from the first question, suggest one reason why blood is removed from a vein and not from an artery. So what is the reason that they're removing the blood from the vein? If you have learned about your circulatory system, you will know that the blood in the artery flows in high pressure. Okay? And the blood in the vein, of course, flows in low pressure. So which is what is expected out of you in this answer. Okay? Since it's a 1 mark question, you just need to, if you just say that, you will get a mark. I'm going to give you one more option. You could also say it is easier to puncture the vein due to thin or thinner walls compared to artery, which has thicker walls, isn't it? So either you say because of the low pressure and it's easier to stop the bleeding, we're going to opt for the vein. If not, you could say easier to puncture the vein. Okay, so that gets you the 1 mark. Right, moving on to the next question. Suggest one advantage and one disadvantage of a patient who receives the blood. So they've already highlighted it. You do need to give 2 points to get those 2 marks. Okay, and the one who's receiving the blood. So if I'm going to receive the blood, these are general things to think of. So yes, it's going to be a lifesaver. So you could say lives are saved. Or if someone's anemic, it reduces your anemia. So you could say that as well. The disadvantages, because it's someone else's blood, there is always a risk of infection, or your body might even reject it. So you could say risk of rejection. So do not just write risk of infection. That will get you a mark. You can also say risk of rejection. So that gets you 2 marks. Any 1 point. It doesn't have to be 4, okay? Any 1 point from either of this. So basically 2 points gets you 2 marks. Right, the next question is asking you, suggest one advantage and one disadvantage to the volunteer who donates blood. So the one who's going to donate the blood, think of it in general. Yes, they're going to help others, which will get you a mark. You could also say that this chance of choosing to donate blood gives them a diagnosis of health, any health conditions, okay, health problems. You could say that. Moving on to the disadvantage, you could say, yes, it's painful, risk of infection, the time that you have to travel and do all of those things, it causes bruising. So all of that, you could say the person can get dizzy, because I did when I did that. So you could say pain, risk of infection, dizziness, all of this, just 1 point will get you the 2 marks. Okay, these are general things to look out for. And that's about it. That was your question 3 on GCSE paper 2, Foundation Tier 2024.